Now we're rolling. Hello and welcome back to the Porrazza Nutrition Podcast. I'm your producer, Adam, and with me, of course, is Felicia Porrazza of PorrazzaNutrition.com. We are talking about today the benefits of exercising.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Talk about benefits, maybe how to get started, some key things to note about exercise.
Of course, Felicia is a certified personal trainer. This is an area of expertise for her. At least it's one of the many areas of expertise that Felicia has. It is something that she is a certified expert in, technically speaking. I always forget which certification you have. What is it?
ACSM.
ACSM stands for?
American College of Sports Medicine.
Okay. And could you just briefly describe the process that you had to go through to obtain that certification?
So for the personal training that I did through them, you had to have a certain degree in order to sit for their exam.
You had to have a certain degree. So what, your bachelor's degree?
Yeah, well, they require... I think it's changing in the next couple of years, but it was required to have just a high school diploma and then CPR certification.
Okay, so that was the requirement to sit for the exam, but of course you had to study.
Yes, yeah. So the test that I took and through them, you just had to have the high school diploma, but that might be actually changing to an associate's or a bachelor's. So.
Okay, so you took a self-paced course?
No,
or you bought the book?
I chose the self-study option. So I did buy a book, and then I also bought their Pocket personal training app, which was honestly really helpful.
Okay,
It's very
so
similar.
they have an app for helping people learn how to obtain their certification. That makes sense. So you had to study for a while, and then you sat for an exam?
Yes.
And you were given an official certification from ASCM? ACSM and NASM are the two big ones that I always hear that if you're going to go to become a personal trainer, those are the ones that you should go through, and you have one of those. So it is absolutely one of the most reputable, nationally recognized certifications for personal training. So I just wanted to highlight where Felicia's coming from as a subject matter expert in this field, in this field of study. So we are going to talk about some benefits and how much exercise you need, how to get started, how to maintain a routine, keep the momentum going, something that I have personally struggled with quite a bit over the years. Gyms versus exercising at home, and some special considerations for exercising, medical conditions, things to look out for, that sort of thing. So to get us started, just briefly, I guess, or as in-depth as you'd like, what are some of the most important benefits of exercise, just in general? Yeah,
so to be honest, most people when they
and
think...
sorry. When you say exercise, what exactly do you mean by exercise?
So with the and we'll talk about the recommendations in a little bit, but when I'm saying exercise, some of the studies are very specific to, cardio, like running or walking, or resistance training. So we'll kind of talk maybe a little bit about benefits for each of those, but just even movement in general. Like there's research to say that if someone is not normally exercising and starts exercising, they can see reduced risk in chronic disease, like reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, like heart disease, diabetes,
I'm pretty happy that moving is considered exercise.
Yeah, so there's definitely different levels. And again, if someone is sedentary and they start moving, like parking further, using the stairs, that all counts, and that is still beneficial.
How about that? Does that count?
I mean,
it's
you're still
joke.
expending energy.
I exercise. Check us out. I have to get up and walk to the fridge and walk back. There's my exercise.
Although if you do that for a while.
It's literally every dad ever. Okay. So, go ahead.
But yeah, there's a lot of different benefits. It does depend on the type of exercise, but movement in general. And when I'm saying exercise, I'm just talking like kind of broadly about movement. So whether it's walking, running, and we'll kind of get maybe more in depth about that as to some of the benefits. But so
I only ask because it's important to define your terms.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a very particular view of what exercise is or what constitutes exercise. Some people immediately think weight training, others running and something rigorous. Whereas, when you're talking about exercise, you could literally mean walking. taking the stairs.
So the recommendations, like from the CDC, they recommend aerobic activity. That's the terms they use.
Right.
And then muscle strengthening activities, which would be like your resistance.
Anaerobic?
So like you're pushing and pulling. So even like bodyweight squats or using like free weights or, a resistance band or things like that.
Okay. I have to ask.
Yeah.
Do you even lift?
Yeah.
Do you even lift, bro?
Well, not as well. I guess sort of.
Do you lift? Do you even lift? Well, okay. So yeah, of course. Who lifts right now? No one's even going to the gym at this point. But Felicia is an avid lifter and has lats of steel, washboard abs.
No, I don't.
Totally.
Don't have washboard abs.
A 12 pack. How many pack?
42.
48. 91 pack.
That's an odd.
She can put up some weight. She can bench more than most people. But okay. I just wanted to clarify exactly what is meant by exercise. And let's get into some benefits.
So benefits overall, one is, and most people when they think of benefits, just to back up for a second, most people will think of like weight loss, but there's so much more than just weight loss. That's obviously something that can occur with, expending energy and moving more. But there's research to show that being physically active, so just any form of movement, can actually improve your mood. It can better your sleep. So as long as you're not doing intense exercise right before bed, but like a couple hours.
As we all do. I generally do hill sprints right before I lay down.
Well,
so I shouldn't do that anymore.
Maybe not right before bed.
I feel like you're controlling my life now at this point.
I'm sorry. Reduced risk of chronic disease. So I mentioned things like diabetes. So it can actually improve your glucose response, your insulin response, I should say, actually. Helping to manage blood sugar numbers better, basically. Can reduce A1C, and that's something we can link. I have a bunch of studies to
Can we talk about what A1C is?
Oh, yes. So the A1C is your average glucose or blood sugar over 3 months. So it's a percentage. And
your average blood glucose percentage?
Your average blood glucose level over 3 months, and it's
what
shown
your
in
A1C
percentage.
is. So why should someone care about what their average blood glucose level is?
So your average shows that's one of the criteria they use for diagnosis for diabetes and prediabetes.
Your blood sugar a blood sugar metric is what's used to determine whether or not you're diabetic.
Yeah, so it's the actual term, A1C is what you'll see on the labs, but it's also called glycated hemoglobin A1C.
Oh,
you
might see
that.
Glycated hemoglobin. I say that all the time.
But it is your average blood glucose over 3 months. So it shows how well controlled your blood sugar numbers are.
And we want that to be controlled.
Yes. So ideally, you want to be less than 5.7.
Why do we want our blood sugar to be controlled? What is that exactly? So I'm dumbing it. Frankly, I don't know personally all the details. I just kind of know these things are supposed to be important, but I'd love to know why.
So when you consume carbohydrates, I guess that's kind of what you're referencing, right? So when you consume carbohydrates, your blood sugar goes up.
Beer.
It's a natural response.
Bread.
Bread.
The best things.
And even we were mentioning fruit before. So, any kind of carbohydrate.
Root beer barrel candy.
Yes.
Felicia's favorite.
Yes. So you consume a carbohydrate, your blood sugar goes up. It's a natural response. Insulin is released. And if you think of insulin it's a hormone.
Your pancreas produces insulin?
Yes. And so with insulin, it's basically you have this glucose in your bloodstream, and insulin helps to open the gates to your cells so your body can use that glucose. So it's kind of like the key that opens your cells up. And so glucose goes into the cells. You can use it for energy, store it for later. But glucose, so that's your glucose. Now,
okay, that's what it does. Yep.
Yeah. So if someone is insulin resistant or their body's not producing insulin, like in the case of type 1 diabetes, they have a really high blood sugar number because basically you don't have that insulin to open the door to your cells. So
the sugar is just kind of floating around in your blood.
Yeah. So that could be dangerous. It can lead to a lot of
What happens if there's too much sugar just floating around in your blood?
So very high blood sugar numbers, you can actually end up in diabetic shock, coma, which can also happen at very, very low levels too. So you don't necessarily want hypoglycemia.
So you don't want that. So, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go off on too big of a tangent. You're not a doctor. I mean, you know a remarkable amount of stuff about this. I don't mean to push the limits of your knowledge here, but I just want to know why controlling your blood sugar is important. Clearly, it has a lot to do with several different things. And back to what we were talking about, one of the benefits of exercise is, in fact, controlling that.
Yes.
Your exercise can help to control that.
Yes, can help with controlling your blood sugar. So
keeping it steady or level or at a low number or at a healthy range?
At a healthy range. So it can help with keeping your A1C, which is that average number, low, and even reducing it in those who have diabetes.
Reducing it to a healthy amount.
Yeah, or like they've one of the studies that we can link showed just a decrease in the A1C. So, someone was still diabetic, but they had better control.
Okay.
And then other things that that we can link to too with the with A1C and blood sugar in general was there was actually a better response to blood sugar, so there wasn't as much of a high number after someone ate.
So if someone exercises regularly
mm-hmm.
and they consume sugar,
mm-hmm.
their body is better at handling it than someone who does not exercise regularly.
Yep. So that's one of the factors.
So I can drink more soda and eat more candy if I exercise, is what you're saying. You're basically giving me permission to overconsume as long as I jogged, as long as I ran today, as long as I did some push-ups. You just said I can have as much sugar as I want if I did some push-ups.
No? It doesn't work that way.
Okay. Well,
but good.
I tried.
A lot of people try that.
All right. So what else? What else we got for benefits?
So other things, I mentioned that it can help with improving mood. So a lot of the research has been done on depression and anxiety. So actually improving mood, but also reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety. So that's also something else we can link the research to.
All relevant links will be in the YouTube description if you're on YouTube, or the show notes, depending on the podcasting app that you're using, iTunes, whatever Android
Google
users
Play,
use.
Yep,
it'll be in the show notes for anyone who's curious.
Yep. And some other benefits, increase bone strength. So bone strength,
like density?
Yes, increase bone density.
Okay.
And this is something that, even for children, so and that's for weight bearing exercises. So what I mean by that is like anything you're using your weight on. So like even walking can actually help.
So if you bear weight on your arms or legs or hips or whatever, that physical activity will help to cause your body to increase the density of those bones in an effort to adapt to the movement.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, that's kind of what your body does when you exercise, regardless of what you're doing. Like when you run, it strengthens your lungs and heart because your body assumes there's a good reason we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Better devote resources to increasing the capability of the body to do this activity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you mentioned like running and kind of that aerobic exercise, but that can, those forms of exercise can also help with reducing your resting heart rate. So
why do we care about that? Why do we want to reduce our resting heart rate?
So very high your heart rate's going to change, in terms of like when you're running, obviously it's gonna go up, but one of the factors with elevated heart rates and high blood pressure and chronic high blood pressure is it's basically putting
I'm good now
a lot of stress on your arteries, which is all contributors to like heart disease. So your body is more efficient at pumping blood.
We want that.
Yes. Throughout your body.
I've heard that your heart is like a ticking time bomb, sort of like it only has so many beats. Is there any truth to that?
I haven't heard that. Maybe
I always
can link some research on that.
The average heart beats like 4 billion times or something before it gives out. I don't know. It's probably related to genetics or something like that. I assume, though, that because your heart is a muscle, that by strengthening it, you can allow it to have the best chance of lasting longer.
Yeah. So
for heart health, exercise, aerobic exercise, I would assume specifically, is very beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. And then, obvious things like increased strength, that's obviously something else someone might be looking for.
To get ripped.
Yeah.
And jacked. To get all the ladies on the beach in your board shorts.
I was going to say grapes, but like no, it's not.
I'm sorry, what did you just say? Grapes?
No, never mind.
What are you going for here?
I was thinking of like huge muscles.
Grapes? No. Check out these grapes, baby. Yeah, look at my grapes. That's what I'm going to say now.
I don't know why.
For the rest of my life. All right, so benefits of exercise helps you get good grapes. Heard it here first. Improved grapes. We were talking about bone density, better sleep. What else can you think of?
I think I covered a lot of the...
I read a book in college called Spark, and it talks about a link between exercise and not only mental function, but like intelligence, memory, retention. They would have students have gym class first thing in the morning, and they would find that those students performed better on testing, and they got better grades. It's a book called Spark. I'll link the author in the description if anyone's curious, but I found that remarkable. And I have also found that, anecdotally, of course, that on days or mornings where I just happen to exercise early on, the rest of the day, there have been times where like I was on fire it was noticeable. I used to skateboard literally everywhere. I would skateboard to school. Sometimes I would skateboard a longer distance. Like I would get off the bus or whatever, like a stop or two back, and then skateboard the rest of the way. And I remember those days feeling better. I mean, I was sweaty and hot and stuff when I got to class, but I remember things better. I'm sure other people have had that experience.
Yeah, that's actually one of the websites I will link is actually the CDC, and there's actually on that landing page they talk about like better cognitive and improved cognitive function. So basically, people are learning better memory.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about why?
I don't know.
I should know because I read the damn book, but
I mean, I feel like because I'm reading so much research on it. But yeah.
Okay. Isn't that enough reason to exercise as it is?
There's probably something on the list maybe that resonates with somebody.
I'm sure. Having increased muscle mass and strength is just one of the most practical things you can do for yourself in terms of making your life easier. I mean, literally your body is held together by bones and muscles. Even when you're sitting and standing and laying down, your body is doing work to keep its shape.
Yeah.
The better that you prepare your body to do that, the easier a time you'll just have in general. A lot of people, especially when they get older, and I'm quote unquote getting older, it's you start to notice like little weird aches and tics and pains and things. And I think there's a correlation between physical activity and aging. It's a negative correlation, in that the older you get, the less active you become.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that to be statistically true, but I'm wagering that, kids are always running around doing stuff. People go through their 20s very active physically. Generally, you see the most activity in your 20s. Physically, you're very capable. And as the physical activity starts to wane and wear off and you do less and less physically, your body adapts to doing less and less. Next thing you know, you wake up, you're 50, and you got, I promise I'll stop with the dad joke references, but it's like literally every dad, it's when they get up or when they sit down, it's like, that's every dad every time they get up or sit down. And I just think it's like, when I say a dad, I always picture like some dude who's like 51 and he has like 2 or 3 grown kids, and that's every time he gets up to get a beer, he's like, that's where that comes from. I mean, it gets more and more difficult to do some basic stuff, because when that's the physical limit of how hard you exert your body, of like, if that's your physical exertion limit, like that's the most exercise you get, that will become the most difficult thing you do.
Yeah.
It's a bit counterintuitive, I guess.
Yeah.
You really have to work out and work hard to make working less hard easier, in a sense. It's kind of like if you lift a 10-pound dumbbell, lifting a 5-pound dumbbell becomes much easier physically.
Really easy.
I think that's a valuable way to think about it. If you want to have an easy time going up and down stairs, walking around, getting up off the couch and sitting back down and things like that, you have to challenge your body to do things that are much more intense than that, because then if you do that, the easier things become even easier. You see a kid spring off the ground after they fall. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. That, and even like, I was reading some research with people who use like canes or have limited mobility or high fall risk. And this is a very specific population that would, obviously want to work with somebody one-on-one.
This is not medical advice, disclaimer. Consult your doctor.
Yes, absolutely. But there was some studies that I was reading that showed people had better mobility, less pain with walking, decreased risk of falls. So,
if they used a cane?
Yeah. So like even
As opposed to a walker? Or what are you saying?
Yeah, so like as someone who's using a walker or cane, I think the study I read was actually with people using walkers, and they did resistance exercises. So they were doing like pushing and pulling movements using some very light weights.
Okay.
And they were showing that they had an easier time walking.
After doing the resistance training for a certain period of time.
Yep. So it was, I think the study that I was reading was a couple weeks long. I think it was like maybe 8 or 12 weeks. We can link that one too. But they had a better time moving. Some were able to walk without walkers. So, your body does adapt. And again, obviously you want to do this in a safe manner, but, there's even, as people get older, there's still recommendations for exercise. So
there you go. You never slow down. You never grow old.
Yes.
That's a song lyric. Do you know what song it is?
No.
Never slow down. You never go old. Last dance with Mary Jane. It's a Tom Petty song.
Oh.
Anyway, I just saw a picture on Reddit earlier of like, this is my 72-year-old grandpa, and he was just ripped and jacked. Did you see that?
No, but I've seen pictures like that where it's like
how is that guy 72?
Like 80-year-old woman, 70-year-old man, and
insane.
Just
Yeah, I've seen like, oh, this is my 66-year-old grandma clean and pressing like 400 pounds.
Or like deadlifting.
It's just, if you do the work, your body will stay spry and chipper. If you stop moving, your body gets less good at moving. It is that simple to a degree.
Yeah.
And if you don't stop moving, you're always able to move.
Mm-hmm.
Your body adapts to whatever it's doing.
Yes.
So there's tons and tons and tons and tons of benefits. How much exercise should you do? So where are the limits? Mm-hmm. What's healthy and where does it become unhealthy? Like what's the minimum? Like give me some numbers if you can muster them.
Yeah. So the CDC recommends 150 minutes to about 300 minutes, and that's a big range, obviously.
Oh, per week?
Per week of moderate intensity aerobics. So that would be things like walking, running, cycling, elliptical.
Give me a round figure per day.
So aiming for at least 20 to 30 minutes a day.
Per day would allow you to hit that, what was it, 150 to 300 minutes?
Yeah, so it's such a big range because they, suggest that you aim for the minimum of 150.
If 150 minutes broken over 7 days is what? I can't believe I'm this bad at math. This is outrageous.
I had to do like quick math.
So what, like 20 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Is about the minimum you'd want to shoot for. Okay, so but let me ask you this. 20 minutes a day, a daily commitment. What if I did 40 minutes every other day? Yeah,
that works too. And so
is it worse though?
So this is where some of the research just kind of mixed lately. So there's, I don't know if you saw the study or heard, like sitting is the new smoking. Did you see that?
No.
There was like a whole campaign.
That's a bit of an overstatement.
Well, they were talking about that it's actually better to move throughout the day than do like a block of exercise and then be sedentary.
That makes sense.
So like what I, try to talk to people about is
sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is like move throughout the day. So try to get up and move and walk and move around, but aim for, dedicated exercise. So where you're getting your heart rate up for a continuous period of time. Try to do that, at least 10-minute bouts or 15-minute bouts, whatever the schedule allows.
Okay. So maybe as an example, you wake up in the morning, you get like, you wake up, say you shower before work, you wake up and you just bang out some push-ups and some squats, do some calisthenics for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
Boom, there's your 10 minutes of heart rate elevated. Then you shower and then, you sporadically walk throughout the day and then you're good.
Mm-hmm. So
and if that's a daily thing, then you're hitting that minimum for what is considered to be hedging your bets against, I guess, I don't know, to get these benefits that we're talking about.
Exactly, yeah. And, I don't know if anyone's heard of HIIT training, high intensity interval training.
Sure.
But there's been more research on that's saying that like that's effective for, preventing diseases and managing diseases, but it also is such a short window of time. Usually it's 10 or 15 minutes. And so it's easy for people to fit into their day versus like a dedicated hour block of exercise.
Sure.
So
good bang for your buck.
Exactly. So, you want to get your heart rate elevated, but also, you want it to be realistic for you too.
So I've heard with high intensity interval training that one of the benefits is that it elevates your metabolism. for an extended period.
Yes.
It can give you the benefit of an elevated metabolism for like a day or two, whereas like low to moderate intensity exercise at a constant pace would only elevate your metabolism for a matter of hours.
Yeah. So some of the research, and it depends on, the type of exercise, the person, all that kind of stuff.
Who you ask, I guess.
Yeah. But in general, yes, like your aerobics, lower intensity or moderate intensity aerobics, like walking, you have an increase in metabolism after exercise, so during, obviously, and then after exercise for,
I would hope during.
Yeah, for like a period of time with high intensity interval training, and then also resistance training, so muscle strengthening activities. Again, we mentioned like bodyweight squats or, bench press, things like that. You see a longer period of time where your metabolism is elevated because your body is basically spending that time
recovering,
to recover, repair muscles, build muscle, and that involves energy, so
sure,
boosted metabolism, which is one of the few ways that's research supports how you can boost metabolism.
So I guess one of the benefits of high intensity interval training is the intensity part, in that when you're doing intense exercise, it's aerobic, but it's also anaerobic.
Yes.
Is that a proper term, anaerobic?
Yeah. So I mean, aerobic is basically with oxygen. Anaerobic is without.
Okay. Because if you're, say, like an example of high intensity interval training is, I was joking about it earlier, but like hill sprints.
Yeah.
So you sprint up a hill and then you walk down, and you sprint up and you walk down.
Mm-hmm.
And the sprinting up, I don't know. I mean, I'll throw up a picture of like sprinters versus marathon runners in terms of what they look like, but you can see the muscular development in a sprinter versus a marathon runner. And the main difference is the sprinter is running as fast as they can for a short period, whereas the marathoner is running a long distance over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the only difference is how intense the person that's sprinting is sprinting. I mean, it's remarkable the difference in physique between a marathon runner and a sprinter. And it's just an example to delineate the difference in intensity and how it affects your musculature, how it affects the muscles in your legs versus just jogging. Like a hill sprinter, oh my God, they're pretty brutal.
Yeah.
They really work your buttocks. Really rough.
Yeah.
But they're one of my favorite examples because they're easy to understand. You sprint up the hill, you walk down. Find a hill. You don't need a gym.
No.
That's a motorcycle.
I thought it was a dirt bike.
I don't know.
So, whatever.
Dirt bikes are motorcycles.
Well, yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I should know.
Hill sprints. They're good. But
yeah.
that's one of the things about high intensity interval training that's beautiful, is that it's like a short amount of time, high intensity. You still get that aerobic workout, but you also get some muscular recruitment. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sometimes what you'll see in terms of like, a workout routine for like a HIIT program would be like 4 exercises that you repeat. And so you do a circuit that has 4 exercises. So maybe like push-ups, body weight squats, jumping jacks, high knees. And then you run it. You do each exercise for like 30 seconds and then you like run it again. And so
But do you have a break in there? Isn't the point of interval training that there's an interval of rest or relative rest?
Yeah. So depending on the person, their level of activity and all that, it ranges from anywhere from like 15 seconds rest to 1 minute of rest.
Okay.
Or up to 2. Again, depends on, how new you are to exercise and whatnot. But yeah, usually the exercises are done, one after another, and then you would rest and then do it again. And you kind of do however you can, 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it ends up being.
Okay, cool. So 150 minutes to 300 minutes a week.
Yep.
Of moderate intensity?
Moderate intensity.
But if we're doing some high intensity interval training.
So that would actually be a little bit less in terms of like how many minutes per week. So if you're doing more vigorous, where you're getting your heart rate elevated, and we're using terms like moderate and vigorous because it's going to depend on someone's fitness level.
Yeah, your personal level of intensity is dependent upon your current level of conditioning and a few other factors.
Exactly, yeah. So, but vigorous intensity, if you think like moderate intensity would be like walking, vigorous intensity might be like, sprinting or the HIIT training we were talking about.
Yeah. So just to add another metric to it, someone's version of moderate might be on a treadmill at 4 miles an hour, whereas that might be rigorous for somebody else, and that might be low intensity for another person.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on your current level of fitness and also a bit of your body mechanics. You know, if you have short legs, it's a little harder for you to run fast because your legs have to travel a greater distance. It's just, you know, the point being it can depend on a lot of things, what you consider to be intense or moderate.
Yeah.
Rigorous.
And it also depends on, you know, even for someone who's maybe going to the gym a lot or exercising a lot, they might be doing a certain type of exercise. So they might be a runner. And then as soon as they switch to a different type of exercise, they're like,
suddenly their conditioning does not serve them as well as it did with their other form of exercise they're used to.
Exactly. Yeah. So that can take an adjustment period where your intensity will be vastly different than someone else that's doing that same exercise.
Yeah. Like if you run a lot and then you start rowing, you're not going to be able to maintain the same level of intensity you could if you were running if you're untrained with rowing.
Mm-hmm.
They just use different muscle groups.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something wrong with that. Just, you know,
yeah, so
something to be aware of.
It's something with fitness too, is that it's very personal, the way that you approach it and what's appropriate for you, because only you are going to know how you feel. Mm-hmm. And you should never really compare what you're doing to what other people are doing. That is an easy trap to fall into. That's one of the downsides of going to a gym, is that like every gym has that has a class of people that going to the gym is kind of part of their identity, where they are enormous, or they like full on sprint on the treadmill and they're flinging sweat on the other 3 treadmills to the left or right, or they're like just yelling, like they're oddly comfortable for being in a gym. Or like, you know, there's that group of 3 or 4 young men who like are making a YouTube channel and they're like, woo, yeah, and they're like clapping and stuff, and it's just we've had all of those things going to the gym. Felicia and I are the gym goers that we go in, we put headphones on, we use some machines, and then we lift some weight and we leave.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like my little bubble. I don't like to be bothered.
Yeah. I'm sort of the same way. I use it as me time.
Yeah, you know, it's a good way to like kind of decompress, but
active meditation.
Yes. But yeah, I mean that's a great point, is that, you know, it is so personal, and it's so you got to find what works for you, but also what you feel comfortable with too.
But I think part of the point I was getting at was like how much is needed can also be a bit personal in terms of what level of intensity you need to get to. Like if you are someone who does not exercise, it doesn't matter if you're overweight or if you're very thin, or like, you know, whatever your body composition is, if you don't exercise much, start slow.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
the easiest thing to do is it's so easy and tempting to just jump right into it and hurt yourself. And in a way, it's almost people who are at a disadvantage in terms of their physical composition, say someone is overweight, and they're sedentary, they have a sort of unique advantage there, in that when they get started, they're much less likely to go too far and do too much than someone who's thinner and perceptibly in better shape, because the person who's thin may have a little too much confidence.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that obviously at any body size, you know, difference in confidence. And I think that also depends on, you know, social aspect, you know, like friends and family and how they influence, because, you know, at any body size, someone, let's say if they're going to start exercising and they have a friend who's like a fitness goer, that can push them into doing something too quickly because their friend is doing it, and you have the, well, they can do it, I can do it, or, you know, you're trying to kind of compete in a sense. And that's where, you know, as you mentioned, you don't want to set yourself up to end up getting injured, and then, you know, that's going to kill the motivation.
You know, I went through a period in my teens where I did karate when I was a kid. I played baseball in high school, and then after high school, I was not very active for a few years. And then around age 20 or so, I jumped back in head first to fitness. I started taking Muay Thai, which is like a Taiwanese version of kickboxing, where you throw knees and elbows too, and a couple other things. And I was in like good enough shape to skateboard, and that's it. And my first class, I'm running around and jumping and throwing kicks and stuff like that, and I'm like on the balls of my feet for like 2 or 3 hours. And I still had the physical memory of throwing kicks from karate, so I'm going in. And I'm going crazy. And then the next day, my lower body was like so angry at me.
Yeah.
I was so intensely sore that I literally couldn't get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I like going up and down stairs was painful. I actually got some ice from the A+ on the corner and threw it in a bathtub and took an ice bath. It was so intensely painful. And I was supposed to go back to another class the following day.
Yeah.
It was bad, and you don't want to do that. I mean, my calves were like, dude, what did you do?
Yeah.
It was bad.
And that's, but like, you know, that's one thing too with like, you know, with things reopening is that, you know.
Oh, that's going to happen.
Yeah. Even people who like, even, you know, myself, you know, going back to the gym and all of that, you know, if you're at a point where you were exercising and then your routine changed, you know, going back to it, you start slow again, you know, and bring yourself back up again. And, you know, it's unfortunate is most people don't feel it while they're exercising.
That was my problem. That was my problem.
The confidence level is like, I got this.
I got the adrenaline going, and it's the novelty of a new activity, and there's a social aspect to it, and everyone's hyping each other up, and it's like, you're going to feel it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there's going to be, with COVID kind of dwindling down in terms of restrictions and gyms opening back up, I wonder if there's going to be a spike in injuries. I
can definitely see that, especially because I mean, when the gym's closed before outside of like a snow day.
Well, like, yeah, it's been, but it's been like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah,
a lot of people just haven't been working out, I'm sure, or at least not nearly to the intensity. A lot of people don't have weights at home. You go from benching 225 and squatting 315 to body weight exercise. You're going to go back into the gym and load up some 45s on that barbell. It might not be the best thing to do.
Yeah. And you do have, you know, muscle memory that you should regain usually your strength back quicker than if you were starting from zero, but it doesn't mean to start with where you were when you left.
Okay. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I've actually had an experience with that where I gained some muscle, and then I had a brief period of inactivity where I lost some, but then when I put it back on, it happened far more quickly the second time. Like, I mean, a fraction of the time to get back to my peak of where I was.
Yeah.
So what is that?
So I don't know what the actual terminology is it for, but one of the ways I've seen it phrased is like muscle memory.
That phrase has a lot of meaning. So that can mean a few different things. I know if we're playing music, like learning the chords with your left hand or whatever, that's considered muscle memory. So in this case, when we're saying muscle memory, we're literally talking about your muscle fibers remembering being at a certain strength level or size.
Yeah. And this is something we could definitely link to. I don't know all the heavier kind of science behind it, but right, the recommendation is to at least do 1 day a week of muscle strengthening activities that covers, you know, all of your major muscle groups. The recommendation is 2, but 1 maintaining strength. So if you're off the gym for a while and it's, you know, months at a time, you're definitely going to see the strength decreases, but your body is still, I don't want to say adapt, but remembers.
It's ready.
Yeah. So it'll generally take less time for you to
get back
to where you were.
Okay.
Again, we can kind of maybe link.
Yeah, we'll link some stuff. Anything
like
we find or whatever, it's all good. I mean, we'll have plenty linked in the description and the notes and stuff.
But yeah, that's one thing too, just to keep in mind, is that you'll get there.
I'm just glad I wasn't. It was something in my head. I'm like, this is odd that I was able to bounce back the way I did, and I assumed there was something to it, but I don't know if it was just anecdotal or whatever. But I thought it was odd and worth mentioning. So we talked about how much is needed, 150 minutes to 300 minutes. A lot of things can depend on what's intense for you, where you get to moderate intensity. High intensity interval training, HIIT training, is highly beneficial in that it is sort of a concise use of your time. You get a lot of bang for your buck. There's your 80-20. I don't know if that's a common thing people know about or what, but it's high value exercise in terms of the benefit. It's probably the most beneficial form of exercise you can do if you're looking to commit the least amount of time. That said, though, is there any benefit to prolonged moderate intensity exercise like running or like long-term aerobic exercise? Can we expect to see benefits from that, and how much time should we spend doing that?
Yeah, so with like your aerobics, like we mentioned walking and running and kind of longer form kinds of exercise, there's a lot of research between that and heart health. So reducing risk of cardiovascular disease, reducing blood pressure, improved capabilities of pumping blood throughout your body.
What's up with blood pressure? What is that? We don't want it to be high. What does it mean if you have high blood pressure?
So you basically, it's your blood pressure being high. You have your top number, which is how basically forcefully, your blood is pumping through your body. And then the bottom number, your diastolic, is your resting. So if those numbers are high, either one of them, and there's like pre-hypertension categories now that they added recently, but when that's high, it's basically putting more stress on your heart.
So your heart has to work harder to move the blood around?
Yeah, and you're seeing with blood pressure being high, there's actually I was reading a study yesterday, there's a link to high blood pressure and stroke risk too. So the higher blood pressure, the higher the stroke risk.
Well, a stroke is basically your brain's version of a heart attack. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all about like blood and blood flow and how blood moves around in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So, but another thing that I don't know if this is something that you know about, and I don't know if this is just some weird stuff, but you have lymph in your body?
Yeah, so I don't know how I'm trying to think of how to explain
My
that.
understanding is that lymph is kind of like the garbage collectors of your body. They kind of collect dead cells or damaged cells, and they clean things up. Your lymph, it's kind of like a fluid in your body.
Yeah.
And you have these nodes that produce it. Maybe people have heard of people getting cancer in their lymph nodes. That's kind of a thing that's somewhat common, a form of cancer. And so this lymph, it relies on you moving your body around to actually work.
Yes.
So the more you physically move around, the more active your lymph is, and the more it's able to do the work that it does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just another system in your body that is solely dependent on you moving. And it's another reason to just get up and move, any kind of movement. And I always thought maybe prolonged aerobic exercise was also beneficial for your lymph system.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's one of the other ones. It's not one that most people talk about.
And I don't know why.
No, I feel like everyone talks about like cardiovascular health, but I guess, obviously it's one of the major killers. So it makes sense,
sure, but like I just don't know why. I don't know why your lymph system and lymph and your lymph nodes, I don't know why that's not a more commonly talked about topic, because when I first learned about it, I was fascinated by the fact that you have this other fluid in your body that's not blood and it's not being pumped. Mm-hmm. It literally travels throughout your body to do what it needs to do in a similar way to your blood, but there is no mechanism for it to be transported. You literally have to move around in order for it to work properly, which indicates to me a few things. Now, I'm really big on evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology, just the fact that sort of the evolution of human beings is kind of what shaped the bodies to be doing what it's doing now. Mm-hmm. So just the fact that a system exists in your body that relies on movement just to function properly indicates to me that human beings were meant to be moving around a lot.
Yeah, a lot more than we are now.
Yeah, so that's something to consider. Now, I'm not saying that we should be living like a natural, healthy lifestyle and, go back to living in caves or whatever. But
yeah,
more work needs to be done to adapt really the way we live now to what our bodies are set up to actually do. Mm-hmm. One of those things that I think is great, Dr. Michael Greger, he does all these interviews. He's like a big time research doctor. He did a bunch of work on public health, and he's like a big vegan guy too. But he does all these interviews where he's on a walking desk.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
So, he's on a treadmill, and he's on a camera just walking. And, walking desks and standing desks, that stuff, that makes a lot of sense. And to go back to what you were saying about, sitting be the new smoking, that sounds silly. But it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of evidence to suggest that human beings that aren't moving are, I don't want to say dying. That's kind of an intense thing to say.
Yeah.
But you are actively sort of, you're not allowing certain systems in your body to operate the way they were intended to, or at least the way they were shaped to be operating optimally by the nature of human development.
Yeah. And you just reminded me that there's walking desks and standing desks, but they make, I wanted to buy one, but the yoga balls, the big Pilates balls, they have ones that fit into a mold, so it's like a seat, but you're still using that core strength because you're sitting on it. And I don't know if anyone's ever sat on that for like using it as a desk, but like I tend to bounce and like move around more.
You move because you're able to move.
Yeah, but it also kind of forces you to kind of sit up straighter and stuff. But that's also another option. Like if you have a Pilates ball at home, they make ones where you can like put the ball basically in it to keep it, from rolling around, but just something else.
And one thing I think is great to just have in your office, is a rebounder, which is essentially just a small trampoline.
Oh, yeah.
And you can
those are great.
You can just get on it and bounce around a little bit. I mean, it's fun and it's easy to do. And it's so much movement that, it really jostles everything around. It's a little bit of resistance. It's a little work on your joints and your musculoskeletal system.
Yeah. Kind
of gets a lot of work out of that. It's a little bit aerobic. Mm-hmm. I think that's just a great, and it's so small. You know, you can fit them pretty much anywhere.
Is that a brand, rebounder?
I always thought they were called rebounders.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say,
a trampoline is like a huge rebounder to me. I don't know. I'm probably weird in the way I'm describing it.
I just never heard it referred to that, but I've seen them be marketed as like adult trampolines too.
Yeah.
Where they're just the weight capacity is higher usually.
I don't know. A lot of the weird, silly health stuff that I know about like that is from Tony Robbins.
Oh, okay.
It's probably specific to some of his work. So we talked about what's needed, how much is needed. We talked about levels of intensity, which is, that stuff to consider as something that could be specific to you, but definitely consult a doctor or healthcare provider, or maybe perhaps a personal trainer.
Yes.
Like Felicia Porrazza of PorrazzaNutrition.com.
Yeah, personal trainer, exercise physiologist would be another great. And there's varying levels. Like I have kind of like a more basic certification, which is, specific to the population I work with too. But there's a lot of layers and further credentials. So, for special conditions or someone who has, a certain, something that's kind of, impeding their movement. There's a lot of
pre-existing medical condition.
Yeah, or even like there's specialty certifications for like senior health and fitness and how that relates, because obviously everybody's different. So that might just be something else to consider too, is looking for more of a specialized, whether it's personal trainer, physiologist to work with, so that it could be specific to your needs. So this is one of those things where your needs are likely to be somewhat specific. Mm-hmm. I would say that's one of the biggest differences between exercise and diet. Yeah. I think diet's a little more universal. A little bit more, yeah. And that's, even if you're working with like a personal trainer, ask them, what their background is, the population they normally work with, because if they're used to working with only runners, or only, young athletes or even young, fitness goers, you want to make sure that they're able to, cater to their needs, because a lot of the knowledge I have with fitness is related to the population that I work with. I have obviously generalized information like we're talking about now, but
you generally work with people who are 40s, 50s?
Yeah, 40s, 50s, generally newer to exercise. So, I focus on the strength training, but it's kind of at the beginner level than, someone who's like powerlifting and,
sure.
things like that.
So on that a little bit then, so with getting started, so a lot of the people that you work with, you're helping them start exercising from having never done it or having not done it for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Do you have a general philosophy on how it's best to approach getting started?
So it definitely depends on the person. A couple of things that we kind of discuss first is one is the time frames that they have. Finding something they absolutely they might enjoy doing, is kind of the key, because if you don't enjoy it, you're probably not going to find the time for it. But if it's something you enjoy, you're more likely to put the time in, want to do it, schedule a block,
You speak the truth. I absolutely, I hate cardio, but I will box. I'll hit a bag or I'll swim. I won't run. I hate running.
Yeah. Everyone
runs. I hate it. I don't get how people like it. I think it's boring and it sucks, but I'll hit a bag all day. Mm-hmm. So, that's, I second that notion.
Yeah.
Not that I'm any kind of expert, but I totally connect with that point.
Yeah. And that's, it's funny. Sometimes when I'm talking to people about like exercising and what they're interested in, they're like, I know I should walk, or I know I should go to the gym. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And then they're like, well, I really like, and sometimes it's like tennis or riding a bike and, or hiking with their family. And it's like, do that. Because you're more excited about it and you're more likely to do it.
There is something to consider in that there is a barrier to entry for some of these activities.
Yes.
Like I just mentioned, hitting a bag, you need gloves and a bag. to do that. If you want to ride a bike, you need a bike.
Absolutely.
And like if you want to walk, you just need shoes, or not even, like you can just walk around your place.
Yeah. And and there's always going to be barriers to exercise, and that's where you have to, again, this is why it's so personalized. And for you is to think about, okay, what would you like to do? What do you have the accessibility to do? Because someone might not have a safe neighborhood to go outside in, or they might have a really small apartment. It doesn't mean you can't exercise. It just means that you have to find things that are going to work for you.
Figure out what works for you. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the rebounder too, is it's small and you can just jump around and you're one of those things.
Yeah, or like some of the clients I work with now, they've are not interested in going to a gym. And some of it's because they don't like the gym atmosphere. They maybe feel really self-conscious.
I can't blame them.
And so there's a lot of factors there. And so me just saying, well, you need to go to the gym is not going to help.
That's not, yeah.
No. So like body weight exercises, things that maybe don't involve jumping around, because a lot of my clients live in like places where they're in an apartment. So they don't feel comfortable like jumping around all the time.
Sure.
So like, body weight exercises. And then I've had clients that start with body weight exercises and then end up investing not much money, but like $15 to get like a set of bands. And then it opens the door more, or they use cans and they put them in bags. And so there's lots of ways to fit it in. Again, it really depends on what your needs are, but also what you think will be exciting for you. And so generally, once you can kind of figure that out, get it into like a little bit of a routine, you're more likely to kind of keep going with it.
So one thing I think that helps to get started is if you have a friend or two that want to go in and do it with you. I think that really helps. I had the most consistent time of exercise ever in my life when I was working out with a crew of guys at work. Mm-hmm. And it was like a thing, gym time. There was like 3 or 4 of us that would go up and, we would all lift kind of separately but together and chat casually and like motivate each other. And I mean, it was fun, and I really, really missed that. And it was probably the most consistent several months of lifting I ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. And it was super helpful and fun. And, getting started with when it's social, it also fills another need, which is like social activity. It becomes part of your social life when you integrate it with other people.
Yeah. And there's kind of 2 layers to that, or a couple layers to that, I should say. Like
2 is a couple.
That's true. If you, the social aspect, let's say, even now it might be hard to do like things socially together, but like outdoor hiking, you could do that kind of socially distance in a way.
Yeah, didn't you just hike with somebody?
I did. Yeah, we socially distanced, and it was pretty easy to kind of stay away from other people too.
Sure.
But partnering up with someone to go to a class together, even doing a virtual workout together too, just to commit with somebody, or like having a fitness buddy where you might not work out together, but you check in with one another to build that support system. If you have a significant other, or even like children, I've had clients who work out with like a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, go for a bike ride together.
I used to go to the gym with my mom.
Make it a family thing, that can, keep, not only keep a great relationship, but that also, you're having the benefit of exercising.
Exactly. So it's got multiple benefits. There are reasons to do it aside from the exercise, which I think is important. Mm-hmm. When exercise becomes a social activity or a hobby or something else to you aside from simply exercise, I think that is one of the best ways to help you get going, because it's a really great motivation to actually start it and be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else do you think in terms of like ease of getting into it is important?
So, again, finding something you enjoy, variety sometimes is key too. So some people don't want to do the same exact thing every day, like go for a walk, but mixing it up, even on your walk, walk a little faster for 5 minutes, walk a little slower, walk a little faster, skip a little bit
or a lot. Skipping is a very proficient form of transportation. It's very body mechanically friendly. I don't know why people don't skip. I skip all the time when I'm just going to the store, going to Wawa. Skip. Try it out. Helps if you do this too.
Oh gosh.
Actually helps a little bit. What? Are you judging me?
No, not at all. I mean, hey,
you skip and you do this, and it's good for your lymph system. We were just talking about that. A lot of benefits there, guys. Skipping, very underutilized.
Yeah. Anyway, setting a goal can help. But goals sometimes actually can hang people up a little bit because they feel like if they don't meet their goal, they're failing. So depending on the kind of person you are, I'm like setting goals and markers and all that kind of stuff. So
you sure do.
if you don't want to set a goal because it kind of seems like scary or too much, just kind of start of thinking of it as an experiment. Like, I'm going to experiment with exercise this week and see where you might want to fit it in. Maybe plan it into your calendar, but don't set like a 3 days per week for 30 minutes. That can be something to aim for, because, the more specific you are about what you're doing, the more you can kind of track your progress and see how far you've come.
So it sounds like part of the issue is that a goal can be an overcommitment that you set yourself up to not achieve when you're just starting out. So it can be a hindrance rather than something that's helpful.
Yeah, because goals are great. I love goals. I like talking about goals with people, but I've had lots of clients who are kind of on the lower end of motivation, and like just a goal seems so scary. Like, they're like, I don't want to mess it up. And
well, it depends on what it is.
It does.
I mean, if your goal is to exercise once this week for 5 minutes, that's pretty easy to do. I think that is a really good use of goals.
Yes.
You don't have to start out maxed out on what you're physically capable of doing as your goal. Start with a small goal. It's important to have little wins when you're learning or doing anything.
Absolutely.
It's very important to have those little wins to help you get going with something new that you're starting.
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I've had clients who, like, their first goal was getting the mail every day. Like, going down the steps, going outside and getting the mail. And they're like, I feel like it's not a big goal. And I'm like,
it is a goal, though.
It is a goal. And like, part of, setting a goal and kind of going with it is to, get yourself into it. Get kind of ease yourself in. So you start with 5 minutes, you start with walking to the mailbox, you start with parking 5 parking spots away, and you build yourself up. So like you said, building your confidence and building that kind of like, momentum.
Yeah. and I find it's sort of a natural progression to want to move your goals out further and further, but you'll never start that process if you don't achieve one first. So you have to make the first goal the easiest goal, because if you don't hit it, then you never get going in the first place.
Exactly.
If you don't take the first step, you never complete the 1,000-mile journey, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, whatever it is. But no, that's a great point. And even, if you set a goal and you don't hit your goal, or you hit it partially, think of it as like a learning experience. And one of the coaching books I'm reading talks about the idea of babies when they're learning to walk, and how they fall so many times. And generally, anyway, when a baby falls when they're walking, oh, no, get back up. And you're, still clapping for them making those steps. And you're excited, even though they fall many, many times before, even as they are kind of, avid walkers, they're still tumbling into stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. But they're never, people and parents and, family members are never like, oh, you fell.
Are you serious? You really fell again?
Yeah.
Stupid baby.
They're encouraging, and they're...
You never hear those two words together, stupid baby.
And so like, when you think about exercise or any goal, you think of it as it's a learning experience. Congratulate yourself along the way, and don't be so hard on yourself and ramp yourself up. But I thought that was such a great, because I'm like, we never did, like, babies when they're learning something new, it's like, they don't think of it as you fell, you're a failure. You fell and you're trying,
Exactly.
So
that process should never stop.
No.
It's just that when you become an adult, suddenly the expectations are different. Like, you're supposed to have everything all figured out, and it's weird if you're learning something new. At least that's, I think, what we do to ourselves.
Yeah.
I am involved in, I have a YouTube channel where I like do how to play guitar and stuff, whatever. But it's like, one of the things that I really like to think about when I do this stuff is that, like, just start. Just start and make things as easy on yourself as possible. That's what I always tell everybody if you're picking up something like guitar or something complex, a new skill, is that you have to make things as easy on yourself in the beginning. You can't shame yourself for starting super slow or taking it really easy, because the most important thing with picking up anything new, whether it's exercise or an instrument or a new skill or whatever, is actually doing the thing.
Yeah, just start.
Just do it. Just do it. Nike.
Yeah.
They got it right.
Yeah.
But, it's doing the thing. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes. If you did it for 5 minutes today, that is infinitely more than 0.
Absolutely.
0 is not what you want.
And that's maybe more than yesterday. So
exactly.
And you already got progress.
Anything is better than nothing. Just start. Please.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. That's such an important thing to me personally, but I don't want to.
No, and you
going off the rails here.
No, and you mentioned progress, and I think it's silk. They keep saying like progress, not perfection, and that relates so much to like exercise.
Did you say silk?
Yeah, like soy milk.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
It was like this whole commercial campaign, but
okay.
that kind of stuck with me because it's like it's literally progress. It's not perfection. So like, I think sometimes people overplan and like you said, overcomplicate, but people plan so much that they paralyze themselves where they don't take any action because they kind of ramp themselves up so much that
it's so easy
psych
to do
themselves
that.
out. So, if you're that person, take a break a little bit.
Yeah, goals aren't worth having if they prevent you from doing anything.
Yes, absolutely.
Keep them realistic, keep them simple, make them achievable.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, that's a good way to start. And then how to keep going is just as important. So have thoughts on maintaining.
Yeah. So with maintaining, there's a couple of things. And actually a lot of the stuff we were talking about with like variety and consistency, kind of still come into play because you might have started with walking and then you find like 3 weeks in, you're like, I'm kind of bored. And then, people tend to abandon their exercise programs because of boredom. That's actually one of the number one reasons they get bored. So
I believe it.
Make sure you, keep it fun, exciting, maybe switch it up with, whether it's the type of exercise you're doing, how long, whether you're doing it by yourself, with a friend, all that kind of stuff. The more you can build it into your routine where it just becomes like a habit, the more you're likely to continue doing it. So, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it is.
Yeah, if you're used to like Tuesday I do this, Friday I do that, Sunday I do this,
Yeah, make it a habit so it's just something you do versus something you have to really think about every time.
Yeah, you brush your teeth every morning.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't even, it's just like a thing you do.
Yeah.
Habits, and what is it, like 3 weeks to form a new habit?
It's 3 weeks. I think it's 21 days, 28 days, but that's definitely a great way to get yourself going. I think one of the things I was reading recently was like it takes like 4 to 6 weeks for your body to adapt to exercise. Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously that there's a lot of variety there, but one thing to think about is, how long have you been doing what you're doing? How long have you been sedentary? How long have you been out of the gym or not going for a walk? So 28 days is great, or 21 days or 3 weeks is great, but don't beat yourself up if you get to 29 days and it's not a habit yet. So.
Yeah, that was something I always heard was that, if you're out of shape and you're overweight or you're not happy with your current physical state, you got to think about how long it took for you to get to the point you're at. It took 20, 30, 40 years. And if it only takes like less than a year to completely change that and radically make it better and be way happier, that's such a small fraction of the time that it took to get to the point where you're unhappy. So if getting to a point where you are happy takes a year, 6 months, that's so little time in the grand scheme compared to how long it took to get to wherever you're not happy.
Exactly. Another thing that can help is tracking your progress. So like I have a Fitbit that, measures steps and I can log my workouts, and I have an app that's where I can log, like when I was going to the gym, I can log my workouts in there and see like strength gains and stuff. That's motivating to me to see the days I exercise, to see like how my strength has changed. That's something that a lot of clients really enjoy, because if they get to a point where maybe they missed a day or the holidays threw them off track or they're kind of starting to feel discouraged, they can look back and see the progress that they've made. And so that can be really helpful with just like getting yourself in that mindset.
I love the holidays thing. I use that as an excuse to just go off the rails. I'm like, oh, what? It's Christmas. I can eat a whole pumpkin pie. Get off my back.
Yeah.
I use that as my excuse for, whatever.
What's funny though is, and it depends again where you are in your fitness journey, but I have clients who, it comes to the holidays and they're like, I'm not compromising my exercise routine because it keeps me sane and it keeps me kind of leveled off. And so when they get to the holidays, their eating habits might change, but they're like, I'm keeping my yoga, I'm keeping my walks because that keeps me feeling good and maybe like at a lower, anxiety level with maybe a lot of family interactions.
Sure.
And so again, depends on your fitness journey and where you are and your priorities and values and all that kind of stuff. But
journey.
That's definitely something that, I've had clients where they're like, oh no, I'm walking every morning, or, I'm doing this every morning because it is something that they enjoy, and they're seeing it beneficial in other ways in terms of like how they feel inside. And that can be really motivating too, is that internal kind of aspect.
Yeah. Stars in their eyes.
Yeah.
Jukebox hero. Journey.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You said the word Journey so many times. I'm like thinking of the band now. I need to get my mind out of the gutter.
Like staring at him. Like,
yeah, it's something you do quite frequently.
I do.
With me. I say stupid crap, and I don't expect you to know. I just want to say it. Really stupid of me to. Okay, so one thing that I have in my notes here that I'm cleverly hiding behind my computer. I'm going to pretend that I know all this off the top of my head, as well as our seamless segue before from how to get started to how to maintain momentum, but. One thing to consider with working out is making it as easy on yourself as possible. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that we've been able to make working out realistic, not just easy, but like possible, is working out at home, because no one's going to the gym right now.
Yeah.
And so how do you compare? I was always of the mind that you should just have a gym membership, because you're not going to be able to have the capability of what you'll be able to do at a gym at home, like ever.
Yeah.
Even if you get a squat rack and a bunch of weight and a treadmill or whatever, it's still having access to a gym is worth it. And that's my opinion. I don't know. So what are your thoughts?
So it depends. And, I kind of used to be the same way of thinking many years ago with the gym, is that you need to have a gym membership, otherwise you can't exercise and, whatever. Obviously that's since over the years changed very drastically.
Well, you work out at home, and when we were going to the gym, you would still work out at home sometimes, and you've had equipment for a long time.
Yeah. So one depends on the person. And again, we keep saying the same thing.
Shocking.
It really depends on the person. With going to the gym, some people don't, a gym membership is worth it for them for a couple reasons. They have the accessibility to all those different weights, and machines. So they have a lot of variety they could choose from. It maybe fits in line with their fitness goals that they're looking for. Some people find it really, really motivating to go to the gym, because I have lots of clients, even my parents, have a treadmill that's just become a coat rack.
Yeah, just clothes all over it.
And it's funny because I've had clients who have a coat rack treadmill at home.
Coat rack treadmill.
Yes.
That's my new band name. Coat rack treadmill.
But they go to the gym and use the treadmill, because it's leaving their house, and they're in a mindset when they go there.
Well, there's something to that. So it's often said that you shouldn't play where you work and you shouldn't work where you play, because, a separate space dedicated to certain things is helpful for getting yourself in tune mentally with, okay, I'm going to go do the thing now. And going to the gym is kind of like that, in that you go to a gym to work out. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go there and stand around and drink a smoothie. You're going to go there and work out, because that's why you're there.
Yeah.
You got up, you left your home, you went to a gym for what? To work out.
Yeah.
So you're going to work out while you're there. Whereas if you just have weights or a treadmill or whatever at home, but you don't work out at home, then you're not going to work out at home.
Yeah.
You're more likely to do the things that you normally do at home.
Exactly.
Which are not working out.
And that's, again, depends on your motivation level too, and your comfort. Like I have lots of clients who they love going to the gym, or to a studio too. Back when classes were open and stuff, people were doing
like a box for CrossFit or something.
Well, that, or yoga, fitness classes. Some people love those classes, or the pool. And so they have that accessibility, but they also find that camaraderie. They meet people. If they miss a class, someone's like, "Hey, where were you on Monday?"
Yeah, gym people.
Exactly. And even the classes, sometimes people aren't sure what to do, and that can be helpful in a group setting where it's also a little bit, more cost effective. So there's lots of benefits to maybe getting a membership somewhere.
Right. Of course.
So, again, it depends on the person, obviously.
But then if you don't have the time to commute to a gym, I mean, if it's at home, if you have the stuff at home, it's very little time commitment to just go work out.
Yeah. And this, again, comes back to, what accessibility you have at home. And you don't need all this fancy equipment to work out.
That's something that I think is also understated, that you don't need much, if anything, to quote unquote work out.
Yeah.
You can do bodyweight squats. You can do push-ups.
Yeah.
You can, what I used to do and what me and my friends used to do sometimes, it was we would fill milk jugs, empty milk jugs with water. It's like 7 or 8 pounds. Mm-hmm. You get a couple of those in each hand. You're doing curls or whatever, overhead press. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that sort of thing. Or, one thing we used to do is we would like do push-ups and sit on each other's backs, stuff like that. I mean, that's if you have a friend or whatever. Something I used to do when I was younger and I didn't have weights available was I would take a backpack and throw a bunch of books in there or something. There's all kinds of things you can do with the stuff that you already have available, but it's the most important thing is to do something. So anything you can do is enough.
Exactly.
But there is some pretty snazzy equipment out there that you can get that is like very nice to have.
Yeah.
Like power blocks. Do you know what those are?
Those like the yoga blocks, you mean?
No. Maybe there's something called power blocks that is related to yoga, but what I was thinking of is there are these dumbbells that you can get where you change a slider on them and then they're a different weight. So the whole thing is like 80 pounds, but if you click a knob on the end and now it's 35.
Mm-hmm.
Those are awesome.
Those are nice. So like some of like the low cost stuff that I talk to people about could be like those weights.
I don't think they're low cost.
No, but I mean like low cost or like not taking up a ton
compared
of
to a
space.
whole dumbbell rack, they're probably cheaper.
Like if you're gonna buy dumbbells, those could be an investment, kind of thing.
Well, you're a big proponent of bands.
Bands. So like some people might be familiar with bands from like maybe if you went to physical therapy. It's kind of like my first experience with those. But there's all different types of bands. So there's mini bands, and those are nice to like you kind of put them around like your legs, and you could do.
They're like a loop.
Yeah, they're a loop. And so they're smaller. That's why they're mini. And then there's like really long ones that you could do all different types of exercises with. And
when I think of bands, I always think of the ones with like handles on the ends.
Yeah. So they use the term resistant bands for those generally.
Okay. I've always heard strength bands.
Yeah. Usually you see strength bands or resistance bands for those. Mini bands are like the smaller loop ones. But there's so many exercises. You can really do a full body workout using those different bands, and they come in different weights. So there's like ones that are really like light where they're easy to pull apart.
By weights, you mean like levels of resistance?
Yes. That's a great way of
Some people can't see air quotes.
Sorry. Right, I keep forgetting that.
How dare you?
We're not.
Outrageous. You're fired.
But they're generally pretty cheap too, and by cheap.
They're elastic.
Yeah. Like I had bought, elastic ones, and I think it was like $7 for a pack of 3.
They're cheap, they're small, they're very convenient to have around, and they're very versatile.
Yeah.
So they're a great option for low-cost workout with high usability.
Absolutely. So that could be something, and, I'm kind of referencing those now because they were ones that I was able to find, pretty easily online. Other things, to have at home could be like kettlebells. They might not be very easy to find, but if you're looking for like low
they're just
space
useful.
Equipment too.
There's a lot you can do with them.
Yeah. But like with home exercise in general, again, it comes down to your, what you are able to do, your space, all that kind of stuff. But some people, if they have children at home, or small children, sometimes it's hard for them to go to a gym because they have to find a babysitter and all that. So that can be something maybe while the kid's napping, they'll do a quick workout. And, even again, I'm talking about different equipment, but if you're like just completely new to exercise, you have no clue what to do. There's a ton of free apps and YouTube videos that can be really helpful. Yeah.
Oh my God, there's so much on YouTube.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like really beginner friendly stuff that, and there's a couple of different apps that have like free videos that show you the exercise and then create like a little workout. You could put like beginner versus intermediate. So there's lots of options, especially if you're not necessarily working with a trainer or you're not really sure what to do exercise wise to, again, if you're looking for more like home-based type stuff too.
Yeah. So benefits to each, pros and cons to each, pro to going to the gym is that, it's a social thing. You have access to trainers, lots of equipment. Mm-hmm. You can meet people. Maybe you may not want to go to a gym if you're restricted on like time, or it's just a matter of convenience. You want to work out at home. And maybe you don't want to be around the gym bros.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But pros and cons to each. I don't know. I think everyone should just have at least a little bit of something or other to do a home workout if they so choose. I think it's an option that should be on the table, always on the table.
Yeah, yeah.
So what kind of special considerations do you think of? Like, is can everyone just jump into exercising? What should people do if they have concerns? What are things to consider in terms of maybe not jumping in head first or jumping in too soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in general and really for anybody, I always say check with your doctor before starting an exercise program. Absolutely. And this even goes for someone who might be, younger in their 20s. Get a physical, just to make sure there's nothing underlying going on and you just, want to be 100% sure.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
Really. I don't know.
If you have any kind of chronic condition like diabetes, heart disease, absolutely you need to check with your doctor before starting or even changing an exercise program too.
Is this just like, this is the disclaimer?
This is kind of like a disclaimer too. But so if you've maybe been cleared for exercise, one thing, and maybe your doctor did or didn't give you any kind of recommendations. If you're working with a dietitian or if you're working with a trainer, they're generally going to ask if you have any kinds of chronic conditions, but one thing would be like with diabetes in particular. So with diabetes, with exercise, we mentioned it could bring your blood sugar numbers down. Mm-hmm. Great, it's a positive. However, with someone with diabetes, their blood sugar numbers can drop too low.
So that is something to consider.
And that's dangerous. You can go into shock and into a coma. So it can be very, let alone if you pass out and hit something.
Heard it here, folks. Don't exercise. It can make you have a coma.
So
check with your doctor because you might have a coma if you exercise. Just throwing it out there.
So if, with diabetes, again, if you're working with a dietitian, make sure you let them know you're interested in starting a program or you have started one, just to make sure with maybe fueling. So you make sure you have something to eat before you exercise.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what input might a dietitian have on exercising?
Yep. So usually I'll talk about meal timing with people. So we figure out maybe when their last meal was, if they need to have a small snack before exercise, depending on the length of the workout, maybe having something during. So like a
intra workout, BCAAs, yay or nay?
You don't really need them. I mean, you get them.
I had a feeling. I knew it. I knew it.
Food, honestly. But, and then also after exercise, which is something someone doesn't necessarily consider, is they exercise, maybe it was a short workout, but then their blood sugar starts to drop and they don't have food with them. So being prepared to have, things that have glucose or sugar to make sure that your blood sugar doesn't drop.
Yeah, you do that. You kind of have something in the car usually when we work out.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So I've been carrying, I haven't done it recently because we haven't gone anywhere, but
just real quick, I said BCAAs. That's branched chain amino acids. It's often like a fluid supplement, like a powder you mix them with water. A lot of people tout it as something that you need to consume during your workout for maximal effect. And Felicia is saying,
you don't.
Not really.
As long as you're eating adequate food.
Yeah, not much of a surprise there, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, just like one thing I like to have on hand is like applesauce packets because they're shelf stable. They're easy to just, and they're not super high in sugar too. So
the unsweetened ones are.
Yeah.
Not that high in sugar.
So that could be an option. Again, if someone is type 1 or type 2 diabetic, they might already have like glucose tabs with them, or just eating a meal. But
glucose tabs?
Yeah, they're like little...
I'd rather just have some food.
Yeah, they're like emergency ones where if someone's blood sugar is dropping and they're like in the 40s or 50s, which is really, really low, that or juice.
Not 40s or 50s like age, but like their numbers for blood sugar.
Okay. Yeah, and that's where it's really dangerous. But anyway, they might have those in their car already kind of thing.
I got it. That's something that, okay.
But in general, preparing yourself. So prepare for what you're going to do before, if you need to, during and after. And again, that's, if you're working with a dietitian, or if not, this might be a reason to work with a dietitian to, just make sure that you're fueling properly and,
We did an episode on snacks. We talked about this a little bit before.
Yeah, we talked about snacks. I think it was episode 1.
It was a while ago.
Or 2. I'm not sure.
Cool. So, things to consider, things to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have roundly discussed exercise. We're at about an hour and 15 right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't feel like that long.
Blew right by.
I like talking about exercise.
I'm sure you do. It's kind of a big deal for you. Closing thoughts on exercise.
Closing thoughts
on exercise.
Closing thoughts on exercise. Just get started, obviously with medical clearance if needed.
Do it. Talk to your doctor, then do it.
Then do it. But, remember, this is your journey, and get started with what feels good to you, what's comfortable for you, and just
a
start
small
somewhere.
Town world.
Yeah.
Living in a small town girl.
I was going with it.
You did.
But
I screwed it up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just a complete failure. I should set an easier goal to achieve.
Exactly.
I should set a one-line goal rather than two. I should set more. Listen to you go. Sassing me left and right. Look at you. Coming alive.
I'm gonna
oh my God.
pat myself on the
wow.
back,
She just patted herself on the back, everyone. Okay. Well, with that, I think we can wrap this one up here. I think we have roundly discussed exercise with Felicia Porrazza of PorrazzaNutrition.com, Instagram, Porrazza Nutrition, Twitter, Porrazza Nutrition. Links to anything discussed in the show notes, in the description. That'll do it for us this week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you.